Sequential, formerly Dave Smith Instruments, are one of the most revered synth brands on the planet. So when they release a brand new synth, you know the synth world is going to sit up and take notice. Well, recently they announced the brand new Trigon 6, and we were lucky enough to have Chris Calcutt of Sequential come down with the unit to show it to us, give us a little demo, and answer some questions that you guys might have on it.
Sequential is an American company that have been making synthesizers since, well, pretty much, I suppose, the beginning of commercial synthesizers. It was started by Dave Smith, very famous guy in the synthesizer world, in the early 70s. And through that time, Dave Smith's instruments really have been just really fantastic sounding analog synthesizers. The Prophet 5 obviously is quite a big famous Dave Smith instrument, and yeah, I mean the one thing that Dave I think did really well is focus on the polyphonic side of synthesizers. So yeah, Sequential is a company that has been around making synthesizers for a long time. Now in April 2021, Sequential, the company, joined the Focusrite group. And Focusrite obviously make Focusrite interfaces and also Novation synthesizers as well. And a lot of my personal work is on the Novation side. So it's been really nice to take the Novation hat off and put the Sequential cap back on to come out and start to talk a little bit about some of the synthesizers from those guys as well. So the Trigon 6 is a 6-voice analog, fully analog polyphonic synthesizer. And really this is kind of the third synth in a kind of a lineup. I wouldn't call it a range, but in a lineup that includes the Prophet 6, the OB6, and now the Trigon 6. Now they all are quite different in terms of their personality and character. They all have different filters, for example, different ways of sort of operating, but they all share that same kind of notion of essentially what you see is what you get. All the top panel controls are directly linked to that part of the synthesizer. There's no menu diving, there's nothing quite like that in here. It's pretty much a control per function on the top panel. And that's something that I know that Dave Smith was very keen on, you know, to kind of just basically give you access to the synth engine from the top panel without spending ages running through menus and submenus and all that sort of thing. The Trigon 6 as well is also Dave Smith's last synth design. Unfortunately, he passed away about a year ago, which is a really sad day. But Dave had been working on the Trigon 6 and basically developed the voice cards for this. So he'd worked on the oscillators and the filter. So this is really Dave's last instrument. And it's absolutely beautiful as well. So I think it's a real testimony to the work that he'd done on it. Yeah, I think, I think perhaps one of the things I could perhaps do is just make a little patch from scratch and just kind of go through the various different areas of the instrument. So to achieve an initialized state, you know, a kind of a basic sort of starting point, you just press preset and write, and that just gives us the ubiquitous sawtooth, single oscillator sawtooth. And up on the in the oscillator section here, this is oscillator 1, so I've got an octave control, of course, to set that range. I've also got these switches here as well, and I can choose which waveform I want. So I've switched off the sawtooth and just gone to triangle. A nice yeah, just got a lot of character in that triangle. I think it's a really lovely triangle sound. But of course you can combine them. So here I've got a triangle and a sawtooth together. And if we wanted, we could stick the pulse width on the pulse wave as well. And of course I've got a pulse wave control. So if I actually just take this one off, the other two off, you can hear I can manipulate the pulse width and it goes to 0, so you can close that off totally. And as I say, we've got 3 oscillators on here, so I mean if I wanted to I could get pretty gnarly and just basically turn on all 9 shapes, so 3 per oscillator, and that's quite a big sound already. But then if I start to go with unison, I can just stack up the unisons here. So if we go to 6 voices, it's a really big sound, and of course this is just raw oscillators, there's no filtering at all going on there. So actually let's just move to the filter. So I've got this unison sound. We're listening to 18 oscillators there, each producing 3 waveforms. And here we've got the ladder filter, so if I just bring in a bit of shape to that ladder as well. So we can, you know, basically dial in the cutoff. And as it's a ladder filter, it's self-resonant as well. And you will notice that we lose a little bit of bottom end as we open up the resonance. That's pretty standard behaviour for a ladder filter. And actually can be quite useful, I think, when you're working with your music as well, because, you know, with the ladder filter, the 24 dB cutoff there, there's a lot of low end going on. So actually by using the resonance to just kind of dial that back a little bit, let's just have a quick listen. So here's just the cutoff and bring in the resonance. Kind of just dials back the low end, and that just can often help with the mix side of things. The other big thing on the filter, of course, is that it's there's 2 kind of slopes for it. So the standard is a 24 dB per octave, 4-pole ladder filter, with quite an aggressive cutoff slope. But then we've also got the 2-pole as well. So it's a much less aggressive cutoff slope, and again can be really useful for, again, just, you know, kind of finding those finesse points with your sound. The 2-pole filter is also self-resonant, as is the 4-pole. If I get the resonance all the way up and just turn the cutoff down a bit, we've basically got, we've not got keyboard tracking on, but basically I'm producing a pure sine wave here just from the filter itself. Let's go up an octave. And that's just, we're just listening to the filter there. And again, if you add a bit of the stereo distortion after it, it's not too far off a usable sound as it is there. Yeah, so, you know, the filter structure here is pretty tasty. There's a lot of stuff going on. Other stuff that we've got as well, I should mention a little bit about the sequencer perhaps. So the sequencer allows you to basically create your own sequence in there, really simple and easy to program. While the sequencer's running, I can also play on top as well if I've got enough voices left over. So again, that's pretty neat. To program the sequence is really straightforward. Just hit record, we're into program mode, and I can play polyphonically into the sequencer. So I'll just press a chord down, and then I can just make that a longer legato or tied note. Put a couple of rests in, and then and now I can use the clock division to speed up or slow down the a sequence. And again, I can play over that. And if I hold down the record button and then press a different key, it's going to transpose the sequence as well. So it's a really basic sequencer, but it's actually really powerful. Also, we've got a couple of effects available. So we've got essentially, yeah, a choice of various different time-based effects. So here we're set to effect number A, and we've got different delays, a couple of different phases, a ring modulator, a couple of different flanges. That's on part A. And on part B, we've got all those, but we've got also, I think it's 4 reverbs as well. So, you know, there's quite a choice of different effects there. We've got some parameter controls as well, 2 controls per effect. They can be synced too. Yeah, just a nice little kind of bit of digital effects, of course, at the end here, but just giving you a nice bit of sheen and finesse for the patches that you create. The Trigon 6 has got a really huge sound. It's analog oscillators, analog filters, and a full analog signal path. We've got some digital effects, and there is some digital control in here, but the sound that you're hearing is all pure analog stuff. It's got a really quite a unique filter for a polysynth, I think. You know, it's a ladder filter, as I've said. It's got its own flavour. It's got its own distinct flavour there. And then, of course, the 3 oscillators that we've got that we can make use of, which is a lot in, you know, in a mono synth, but on a polysynth, it's a huge amount. And I think, as you know, it's an interesting synthesizer in that I think it's kind of also more than the sum of its parts. There's some real magic in this instrument, I think. And, you know, it's very quick and easy to dial in a great sound. And, you know, we've got a control per parameter in front of us. So, you know, it's pretty instant to be able to develop your sounds and, yeah, and store them. I think one thing I would say is if you are interested in the Trigon, you know, definitely go and check it out in store, you know, at the GAC store in Brighton. Just, you know, come and play it, because I think, you know, it doesn't take long before, you know, you play it that you realise kind of what sort of quality we're dealing with here, I think. And sometimes, you know, watching a YouTube video or something like that doesn't really do a synth that much justice, I would say. So it's definitely something to go and try out.
So there we go, that was the brand new Sequential Trigon 6. If you'd like more information on the unit, then you can head to our website, the link for which will be in the description, and you can check it out for yourselves. Anyway, let us know what you thought of the synth in the comments below. Thanks again to Chris and for Sequential for giving us this opportunity to give you guys an early sneak peek of the synth. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to see more things like this, and we will see you very soon.